War, Vladimir Putin, the Communist Party, the Cold War. These are many things that come to mind when thinking of Russia. Russia is a very controversial piece of conversation, but how is the life of citizens inside of it? Well, there's no secret of the recent war in Russia is in with Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of civilians are fleeing Russia. But in the last 50 years, has life in Russia improved or declined? Well, I'm here to show you that life in Russia has indeed improved since the 1970s. This is Russia's GDP over the last 30 years compared to another first world country, Australia's GDP, over the last 50 years. Both, according to World Bank data. This shows that Russia's GDP has been on a significant incline over the last 50 years. The GDP growth shows that the Russian economy is making more money and is doing better than previous years. This is not only good for the government and the country itself, but the citizens inside, as they may have more money, and this can lead to better well-being and easier life with access to necessities. This is the per capita income of Russia over the last 50 years compared to the per capita income of Australia over those years. Comparing Russia to another first world country like Australia, which is a country with similar economy to Russia, is a good way to compare. This shows that Australia has a better per capita income than Russia is on an incline since the 70s. Now let's compare the Gini coefficient in Russia to Australia's Gini coefficient. This data shows the difference in amount of inequality in each of these countries. Australia's Gini coefficient is 0.35 and Russia's is 0.36, which is very close to the same. The higher the number means the closer to full inequality the country is, and vice versa. Comparing these two countries is a good way to show the difference in equality when looking at the Gini coefficient number. The poverty line in Russia is 158.92 USD a month, and 9.3% of citizens are under the poverty line. Australia's poverty line is 489 USD,
week,
which is substantially more than Russia's. Hence, why their poverty line is a bit higher at 13.4, both according to poverty and equality across the world. Now let's look at some quality of life factors in Russia. The life expectancy in Russia is now sitting at just above 73 years of age. 50 years ago, the life expectancy was at 67 years of age, according to macro trends. Now the life expectancy in Russia is higher than ever before. Obviously, everyone wants a happy and healthy life to live, so this is a great indicator that health has gone on an upward trend in Russia since citizens are living longer than ever. The life expectancy in Australia is now just above 84 years of age. 50 years ago, it was just 68. This is because Russia is in a lot more conflicts than Australia, and there's many more people there, so there is a higher chance of misfortune. Now let's look at intentional homicides per 100,000 people. Russia has 7 intentional homicides per 100,000 people in 2021, according to World Bank data, compared to 1994, where there was 32 intentional homicides per 100,000 people. That's almost 5 times the amount of killings. Australia was 1 per 100,000 in 2021 per World Bank data, and was 2 back in 1994. However, the Russian decline of 25 killings per 100,000 people per year is a very good sign that there is more peace within Russia and that life is certainly improved in that aspect. Another aspect we can consider for the health of the citizens in Russia is the CO2 emissions per metric ton capita, which is at 11.7 tons per capita, as opposed to 1990, where it was at 14.6 tons per capita. Comparing Russia's emissions to Australia, where in 1990 their emissions was 15.7 and is now 15.4 tons per capita, both stats according to World Bank data. Russia emissions have decreased significantly since 1990, and the Australians have stayed relatively the same. This shows that life in Russia is improving for civilians. Lastly, let's look at the unemployment and labor participation rate in Russia and Australia. Russia's labor participation rate is 63%, and the unemployment rate is 3.87%, according to World Bank data in 2024. This is good because you don't want an insanely high participation rate, as there is children and elderly people not fit to work. Also, disabilities cause people to be unable to work. If you had to make these people work, it would be inhumane and lower quality of life. Comparing this to Australia's in April 2024, unemployment rate remained at 4%, participation rate remained at 66.7, according to World Bank data. Now we're going to look at the HDI, Human Development Index. The HDI is a measure of human development. The HDI is a summary composite measure of the country's average achievements in three basic aspects of human development: health, knowledge, and standard of living. The HDI of Russia, which is the index used by the United Nations to measure the progress of a country, was 0.822 points in 2021, leaving it in 52nd place in the table of 191 countries published. Australia was in fifth with an HDI of 0.951, which shows that although Russia isn't the highest in these statistics, it's certainly growing fast and life is becoming better every year. In conclusion, the quality of life and economic growth in Russia has seen significant improvements over the last 50 years. This can contribute to various factors such as increased investment in infrastructure, advancements in technology, and a more stable political environment. Data shows that GDP per capita has steadily increased, leading to higher standards of living for the population. Additionally, improvements in healthcare and education have contributed to an overall better quality of life for Russians. While challenges still remain, it's clear that Russia has made significant progress in improving the well-being of citizens and driving economic growth in the last 5 decades.